Stop! Are you about to trigger an IRS red flag? If you're over 65, your next trip to the bank could accidentally land you in a federal investigation. There's a $10,000 IRS bank rule that millions of seniors are completely ignoring in 2026, and it's a high-stakes mistake that could cost you your entire savings. Think your money is safe just because it's legal? Think again. The IRS has supercharged its monitoring systems this year. If you deposit, withdraw, or even move your own cash in a way they find suspicious, you could be flagged for structuring, a federal crime that allows the government to freeze your accounts and seize your hard-earned funds before you even get a chance to explain. Most seniors think they're being smart by breaking up large sums to keep things private. But in 2026, that private move is exactly what puts a target on your back. With new reporting thresholds and AI-driven tracking now in full effect, what you don't know will hurt you. In this video, I'm breaking down the exact $10,000 trap you need to avoid, how to handle large transactions without the IRS breathing down your neck, and the critical steps you must take to protect your retirement from being red flagged. Don't let a simple banking habit ruin your financial future. Smash that like button if you want to stay ahead of the IRS and protect your wealth. Now that you understand the sheer magnitude of the risk, we need to dive deep into the belly of the beast, because the IRS isn't playing by the old rules anymore in 2026. You might think that as long as your money is clean, maybe it's from a house sale, a lifetime of diligent saving, or a generous gift to a grandchild, that you have nothing to fear, but that brand of logic is exactly what gets innocent seniors caught in a legal dragnet every single day. The reality of modern banking is that the moment you cross that $10,000 threshold, or even appear to be dancing around it, you are no longer just a customer to your bank. You are a data point in a massive federal surveillance web designed to catch high-level criminals, yet it's catching everyday retirees instead. We have to talk about the Bank Secrecy Act and how its evolution into this year's aggressive enforcement climate has turned standard financial planning into a potential minefield for anyone who prefers the feel of physical cash or the privacy of their own transactions. When you walk into a bank today, the teller behind the glass isn't just there to process your deposit. They are trained as the first line of defense for the Treasury Department, and they are legally required to file what's known as a currency transaction report for any cash movement over $10,000. Most people hear that and think they can be clever by simply depositing $9,000 today and another $2,000 tomorrow to stay under the radar. But that specific action is actually a felony known as structuring. It sounds like a word for architects or engineers, but in the eyes of the IRS, it's a deliberate attempt to evade federal reporting requirements, and it carries penalties that can include the total forfeiture of the funds involved. You see, the government doesn't have to prove you committed a crime like money laundering or tax evasion to take your money. They only have to prove that you intentionally broke up your transactions to avoid that $10,000 report, which is a terrifying realization for someone who just wanted to keep their business private. In 2026, the situation has grown even more complex because the algorithms used by banks have become incredibly sophisticated and aggressive at flagging unusual activity. It's not just about the raw number anymore. It's about the pattern of your life and how any deviation from your normal behavior can trigger a suspicious activity report, or SAR. Unlike the standard $10,000 report, you aren't even allowed to know if a SAR has been filed against you. It's a secret document sent directly to the authorities, and once that ball starts rolling, it's nearly impossible to stop without a team of expensive lawyers. This is why so many seniors are making a catastrophic mistake by trying to manage their cash in smaller increments. They think they are staying safe, but they are actually waving a giant red flag in front of an AI-driven system that is programmed to find exactly that kind of behavior. You have to realize that the bank is not your friend in this scenario. They are mandated by law to report you, and if they don't, they face massive fines themselves, which means they are always going to err on the side of caution, even if it means ruining your afternoon or your entire financial life. Let's talk about the psychological trap that leads so many people into this mess, because it usually starts with a very reasonable desire for privacy. Many of you grew up in an era where what you did with your money was your business and nobody else's, and that's a value we all hold dear. However, the digital landscape of 2026 has effectively ended that era of financial anonymity. When you try to reclaim that privacy by dealing in cash, the system views it as an inherent red flag. If you have $50,000 under your mattress and you decide it's finally time to put it into a high-yield account to combat inflation, you might think the safest way to do it is in $5,000 chunks over a few months. To you, that feels responsible and discreet. To the IRS, that looks like a classic case of structuring. They will look at those consistent, sub-threshold deposits and conclude that you are trying to hide something, and under civil asset forfeiture laws, they can seize that money first and ask questions much, much later. You could spend years in court and tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees just trying to get back money that was legally yours to begin with, all because you didn't know the specific way the 2026 rules are being applied. The danger isn't just limited to deposits either. Withdrawals are under the same microscopic scrutiny. If you want to take out $15,000 to buy a used car or help a family member with a down payment, the bank is going to ask questions. They might ask what the money is for, and while your instinct might be to tell them it's none of their business, that response is often the quickest way to get a suspicious activity report filed against your name. We are living in a time where transparency with your financial institution, as uncomfortable as it feels, is actually your greatest shield. If you have a legitimate reason for a large transaction, the best move is often to be upfront, provide documentation, and let the standard report be filed. A currency transaction report is not an admission of guilt. It's a routine piece of paperwork that millions of people trigger every year without issue. The problem only starts when you try to hide the transaction, because that is where the legal definition of criminal intent begins to take shape. We also have to consider the role of the new IRS agents and the expanded budget that has been rolled out over the last couple of years. The focus has shifted heavily toward digital compliance and automated auditing. They aren't just looking for the big fish anymore. They are looking for the easy wins where the paperwork doesn't match the reality of the bank account. For a senior on a fixed income, an unexpected audit triggered by a banking mistake can be emotionally and physically devastating. It's not just about the money, it's about the stress of having to prove your entire life's history to a faceless government entity that assumes you're guilty until proven innocent. This is why understanding the $10,000 rule is the single most important piece of financial literacy you can have in 2026. You need to know that the magic number isn't a suggestion, it's a hard line in the sand, and crossing it requires a specific set of behaviors if you want to remain untouched by the heavy hand of federal oversight. Furthermore, we are seeing a massive increase in Operation Choke Point style tactics, where banks are essentially firing customers who they deem too risky. If your banking patterns look even slightly suspicious to their automated systems, they might simply close your accounts without warning. Imagine waking up to find your debit card declined at the grocery store, only to discover that your bank has severed ties with you and is holding your balance in a review status for 60 to 90 days. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a documented reality for thousands of people who fell foul of these reporting rules. They don't have to prove you did anything wrong to close your account. They just have to decide that monitoring you is more expensive than losing your business. For a senior who relies on direct deposits for Social Security or pension payments, this kind of disruption can be a total catastrophe. You have to play the game by their rules, and that means understanding exactly how to move large sums of money without tripping the silent alarms that are built into every ATM and teller window in the country. One of the biggest misconceptions I hear from people is that this only applies to cash in the form of physical bills. While the $10,000 rule is most strictly applied to physical currency, the spirit of the law and the automated flagging systems now extend to wire transfers, cashier's checks, and even certain types of digital asset movements. In 2026, the definition of suspicious has expanded to include any transaction that doesn't fit your historical profile. If you've spent 20 years never moving more than $3,000 at a time and suddenly you receive a $12,000 wire, the system is going to take notice. It's about the deviation from the norm. This is why I always tell my viewers to maintain a paper trail that is so thick it could stop a bullet. If you sell a car, get a bill of sale. If you receive a gift, get a signed letter. If you're moving money between accounts, keep the transfer receipts. In the eyes of the IRS, if it isn't documented, it didn't happen, or worse, it happened for a nefarious reason. You also need to be aware of the cumulative nature of these rules. Some people think that if they use different banks, they can circumvent the reporting. They'll put $5,000 in Bank A and $6,000 in Bank B on the same day. In the past, you might have gotten away with that because the banks didn't talk to each other. But in 2026, the FinCEN database is more integrated than ever. The government's ability to aggregate data across multiple institutions has reached a level of precision that was unimaginable a decade ago. If you're using multiple banks to move money in a way that looks like you're avoiding that $10,000 mark, you are actually making yourself look more like a professional money launderer. It's the multiple institution flag that often leads to the most aggressive federal inquiries because it shows a level of planning and coordination that the IRS finds particularly offensive. Let's talk for a moment about the human element of this. It's deeply unfair that after 40 or 50 years of working hard and paying your taxes, you should have to feel like a criminal just for using your own money. I hear from seniors all the time who are terrified to even go to the bank because they're worried they'll say the wrong thing or fill out the wrong form. That fear is exactly what we're trying to eliminate here today. Knowledge is your greatest defense. When you understand that the $10,000 rule is a bureaucratic hurdle rather than a legal barrier, you can navigate it with confidence. If you need to deposit $15,000, just go in and do it. If the teller asks you to fill out a form, fill it out honestly. "I sold my truck" is a perfectly valid answer. "I've been saving this in my safe for 5 years" is a perfectly valid answer. The moment you try to get clever is the moment you lose control of the situation. It's also crucial to mention the impact of 2026's inflation on these numbers. The $10,000 threshold was set decades ago, and it hasn't been adjusted for the fact that $10,000 simply doesn't buy what it used to. In today's economy, that amount of money is used for routine purchases that wouldn't have been considered large in the 1970s. However, the IRS has refused to raise the limit because the lower the limit stays, the more data they get to collect on the American public. This bracket creep for financial surveillance means that more and more average seniors are being pulled into a system that was originally intended for international cartels. You are being judged by a standard that was never meant for you, and that's why you have to be twice as careful as the generation that came before you. As we move further into this year, we're also seeing new rules regarding third-party payment apps like Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle. While these are often used for smaller amounts, the IRS has moved the goalposts on reporting for these services as well. If you're using these apps to manage your finances or help out family, keep in mind that the total of your transactions over the year can also trigger reporting requirements that you might not be prepared for. It all flows into the same central profile that the government maintains on your financial life. The key takeaway here is that there is no secret way to move money anymore. The only safe way is the transparent way. By being aware of these rules, you are already ahead of 90% of the population who will only find out about this when they get a certified letter in the mail that turns their world upside down. I want you to take a moment to reflect on your own banking habits. Do you have a tendency to keep cash at home? Do you prefer making smaller deposits to avoid hassle? If so, 2026 is the year you need to change your strategy. The hassle of a 2-minute form at the bank is nothing compared to the nightmare of a federal seizure. We are entering an era of total financial visibility, and while that may be frustrating, it is the reality we have to live in. Your goal should be to be the most boring customer the bank has. Predictable, transparent, and well documented. That is how you protect your peace of mind and your retirement. In the end, this isn't about scaring you, it's about empowering you. The $10,000 IRS bank rule is a trap only if you don't see it coming. Now that you know exactly where the tripwires are located, you can walk right past them. You've worked too hard for too long to let a simple misunderstanding of banking regulations put your legacy at risk. Stay informed, stay honest with your filings, and never try to outsmart a system that is designed to catch people trying to be smart. If you found this information helpful, it's because this is the kind of real-world advice that isn't being taught in schools or discussed on the nightly news, but it's exactly what you need to thrive in 2026. I've spent hundreds of hours researching these specific tax codes and banking regulations because I've seen firsthand how a single mistake can derail a person's life. The stories of seniors losing their life savings to civil asset forfeiture are heartbreaking, and in almost every case, the person wasn't a criminal. They were just someone who didn't understand the structuring laws. They thought they were being careful when they were actually being vulnerable. My mission is to make sure that doesn't happen to you. We have to look out for each other in this complex financial landscape. The rules are changing, the technology is evolving, but your right to keep what you've earned is worth fighting for. Remember, the bank tellers are often just as frustrated by these rules as you are. They don't want to be spies for the government, but they have no choice. When you go into your branch next time, keep that in mind. Treat it like a professional transaction. If you're making a large move, ask to speak with a manager or a personal banker in a private office. Document the conversation. Ask them directly, "Is there any additional paperwork I need to ensure this transaction is fully compliant with federal reporting rules?" This one question shows that you are an informed, law-abiding citizen, and it often changes the entire tone of the interaction. It moves you from being a subject of an investigation to a partner in compliance. We are living through a massive shift in how money is monitored in this country, and 2026 is the tipping point. With the potential for central bank digital currencies on the horizon and the total phase-out of older, more private banking methods, your window to master these rules is now. Don't wait until you're in the middle of a crisis to figure this out. Take the time today to look at your accounts, talk to your financial advisor, and make sure your house is in order. The IRS is counting on your ignorance to fill their coffers, but with the knowledge you have now, you've just made yourself a very difficult target. This is a lot to take in, I know. It can feel overwhelming to think that even the way you deposit money is being watched by high-tech systems and federal agents. But remember, you've handled every other challenge life has thrown at you, from raising families to navigating careers and market crashes. This is just another set of rules to learn. Once you know them, they lose their power over you. You can go back to enjoying your retirement, spending time with your family, and knowing that your financial foundation is rock solid. You are the master of your own destiny, and as long as you stay vigilant and informed, no IRS rule or banking algorithm can take that away from you. Thank you for sticking with me through this deep dive. It's a long and complex topic, but it's the details that save you in the end. We've covered everything from the $10,000 threshold and the dangers of structuring to the hidden world of suspicious activity reports and the new 2026 enforcement climate. You are now better prepared than the vast majority of your peers. Keep this knowledge close, share it with your friends who might be at risk, and always keep a paper trail. Your future self will thank you for the care you took today. This is about more than just money. It's about your freedom, your security, and your legacy. Let's make sure 2026 is a year of financial growth and safety for you, not a year of big mistakes. But we can't stop here because the IRS certainly isn't. The rules we discussed today are just the tip of the iceberg in 2026, and staying under the radar requires constant vigilance. If this deep dive opened your eyes to the risks you're facing at the bank, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. By joining our community, you're ensuring that you never miss a critical update on the laws, loopholes, and red flags that could threaten your retirement security. We are tracking these changes in real time so you don't have to spend your golden years reading tax code. I want to hear from you too. Knowledge is power, but shared experience is a shield. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever felt interrogated by a bank teller, or have you noticed these new reporting habits at your local branch? Your stories help other seniors stay alert and realize they aren't alone in this shifting financial landscape. Finally, If you have a friend, a sibling, or a former colleague who still deals in cash or prefers keeping their finances private, please share this video with them immediately. A simple text or email could be the one thing that saves them from a life-altering federal audit or a frozen bank account. You've worked a lifetime to build your legacy. Let's work together to make sure the government doesn't take a piece of it through a simple paperwork mistake. Stay informed, stay protected, and I'll see you in the very next video.